All right, so things are continuing to get worse for Harvard University after Krisit Noem's latest decision. Also, President Trump and RFK Jr. announced a huge report in regards to MAHA, and the Supreme Court just handed President Trump another win.
Well, breaking moments ago, Homeland Security Secretary Krisit Noem ordering DHS to terminate Harvard University's Student and Exchange Visitor Program certification. This means that Harvard can no longer enroll foreign students, and existing foreign students must transfer or lose their legal status. In a statement, Noem said, quote, "This administration is holding Harvard accountable for fostering violence, anti-Semitism, and coordinating with the Chinese Communist Party on its campus's foreign national count for nearly 30% of Harvard's student body," or at least international students count for about 30% of Harvard's student body. So I expect this one to wind up in court, but that's the action that the DHS secretary is taking at this moment.
Okay, so my question up front when I heard this story is, what about Columbia University and some of these other universities that I know is just as bad as Harvard? I'm curious on that. That's number one. Number two, I'm not shocked that President Trump is doing this because, quite frankly, Harvard is on his S list, if that makes sense. And in regards to Democrats, you already know what they're saying. They say President Trump, once again, is being an authoritarian leader. He's acting like a king, and he's punishing people who are innocent. That's exactly what they're going to say. And how do I know that? Because here's a clip of them saying just that. Take a listen.
This decision that Harvard can no longer enroll foreign students and existing foreign students have to transfer or lose their legal status. What's your reaction to this?
I think it's awful and it's outrageous. It's another pattern of the Trump administration taking authoritarian actions. In the United States, the president does not have the power to punish people, target people for punishment because he doesn't like their politics. And he's targeting Harvard because he thinks he politically disagrees with them. It's a political vendetta. And he's doing this on the back of students who were admitted to Harvard from around the world for their merit, for things that they accomplished in life. And now he's trying to punish them, to hold them hostage, essentially to try to win what he considers to be this political fight with Harvard. That's what authoritarians do. It's not done by the rule of law.
All right, so that's going to be the main talking point from the left, especially mainstream media. Okay, President Trump is punishing Harvard and nobody else. In fact, he's targeting innocent international students, and everything that he's doing is unlawful. That's the bottom line from them. But here's the flip side, and this is what the Trump administration is running with. Harvard has ignored repeated warnings from President Trump in regards to anti-Semitism, foreign influence, and visa-compliant violations. So if no university is above the law and they can't meet basic standards, then they shouldn't be allowed to bring in foreign nationals. And so this actually takes us to what Krisit Noem had to say, because she went on Fox News to explain why she's doing this. Take a listen.
They have promoted and allowed violent activity on campus. They have allowed anti-Semitism, participation with CCP and Chinese infiltration and influence on their campus, and they haven't protected their students. So we have given them multiple opportunities to share criminal activity with us, backgrounds on these students, to let us conduct the oversight into this program that is our responsibility, and they have refused to do so. So today I sent them a letter that said they will no longer be allowed to participate in this student exchange visitor program, and that's up to 27% of their enrolled students. So it's significant. Any foreign student that wishes to get an education in this country, that is attending Harvard and not participating in this criminal activity, they will have to find another university to go to, because Harvard has chosen instead to not protect their students and to allow this kind of violent and discriminatory action continue.
So as you
if Harvard does not feel any pressure or is not threatened, what makes you believe they're ever going to change? They are the ones who fostered an environment that welcomes anti-Semitism, that has made parts of the campus unsafe, just like Columbia University. Now, all I'm asking for the Trump administration, if you're really going to do this, then do it. Go after Columbia University as well, not just Harvard. And the fact of the matter is, this is going to be argued in the courts, and we're going to find out what's legal and what isn't.
I want to make clear, too, in case anyone's wondering, well, why is it important to have international students on college campuses? Well, not only do they make up about 27% of the student body life there and at many universities in the U.S., international students pay full price. So they make it possible for American students from disadvantaged backgrounds to have an opportunity to come to schools like Harvard. So what's actually going to happen here is a lot of those international students are going to have options to go elsewhere. It is going to be underprivileged, marginalized Americans of all backgrounds who apply to schools like Harvard and then are unable to afford the opportunity to go there. So that's the impact here. It's actually us. We're going to be hurt if this really does end up following through.
Yeah, maybe you guys can help me with this, but how do you calculate that an international student who's paying full time is actually helping a student who does not pay full time and is disenfranchised? I'm trying to figure that math out in my mind. If you guys can do that, please let me know in the comment section. Now, let's go back to the facts here. The Department of Homeland Security possesses the legal authority to revoke a university's certification under the Student and Exchange Visitor Program, especially if they fail to comply with federal regulation. According to the U.S. Code, DHS can withdraw the certification for reasons including non-compliance with record-keeping, reporting requirements, or failure to maintain eligibility standards. All right, and now we go to a bombshell report that was released today by RFK Jr. It is being titled the Maha Report. It raises concerns about vaccines, American foods, and prescription drugs. And more importantly, the President of the United States hosted a meeting going over this report with the entire cabinet. Let's hear the president now. Take a listen.
4 months ago, I created the Presidential Commission to Make America Healthy Again, and today the commission officially delivers its first report on childhood health. Here are just some of the alarming findings, and they really are alarming. It's unbelievable, terrible. More than 40% of American children now have at least one chronic health condition. Since the 1970s, rates of childhood cancer have soared in many cases by nearly 50%, 50%. Well, in the 1960s, less than 5% of the children were obese. Now over 20% are obese. A few decades ago, 1 in 1, think of this one. This is, to me, the one that gets me every time, and it seems to be getting worse. Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. Today, it's 1 in 31. Last time I heard the number is 1 in 34, right? Now it's 1 in 31. There's something wrong, and we will not stop until we defeat the chronic disease epidemic in America. We're going to get it done. For the first time ever, this report examines some of the root causes that many believe are making our children sicker and our population sicker, I guess. It just doesn't stop with the children. It's our population also.
Now, in addition to this announcement, they did release a cheat sheet here. It's called the Maha Report, identifying 4 key factors to why childhood chronic disease continues to be on the rise and what the pathway forward should be. Let's just take a look at it briefly here. Number 1 is poor diet. Number 2, environmental chemical exposure. Number 3, lack of physical activity and chronic stress. And number 4, over-medicalization. I think most people would agree that those things are not helping our children. Okay, so here's the other thing I like to remind people, especially older people. The food that we eat today is not the food you grew up eating. Okay? It might look the same, it might be named the same, but what's in it is entirely different. That's why you hear rumors of people going to other countries and losing 20 pounds, but they're eating the same types of foods. Why is that? Because they don't put the same stuff we put in our food. Why do we do it? Because it's money at the end of the day. Now, here's what RFK Jr. had to say at this meeting as well. Take a listen.
And because of President Trump's leadership, it's not just one cabinet secretary, it's the entire government that is behind this report. And I can say again, I talked a little bit about when I met Rachel Carson as a boy. My uncle tried to do this, but he was killed and it never got done. And ever since then, we've been waiting for a president who would stand up and speak on behalf of the health of the American people and say, there is no difference between good economic policy, good environmental policy, and good public health policy, and good industrial policy. We can have all of them, but we need a united cabinet, and we need to go forward as a single people. I want to thank you for that, President Trump.
Thank you very much.
You see, President Trump started this trade war with China for a good reason. But that did not stop people like Warren Buffett and other billionaires from dumping billions of dollars in stocks. And this is why I trust Colonial Metals groups to help people like you do the same thing, which is what? Shield your savings with gold. So you can visit freegoldguide.com/Devori or call 1-888-757-5158 for your free gold guide on how to bulletproof your IRA and 401k with gold tax-free. And you could also qualify for a free home safe and as much as $7,500 in free silver. Once again, that's freegoldguide.com/Devori or call 1-888-757-5158.
And I do want to say something, because I get a lot of credit for steering this administration toward the MAHA movement. But I joined the campaign in August. I joined President Trump in August and became, went from independent to his campaign. But it was in June that he made a speech specifically on this issue. It was a MAHA speech before MAHA existed. And that I took note of that speech at the time and thought there's a potential here for a common ground. So I want to thank you for your vision, for your courage, for standing up. President Trump is a populist president. He's a president he's blamed for giving money to billionaires and all this stuff. We hear about that all the time. But he is on the side of the middle class, the working class, the poor in this country.
Now, that's just a phenomenal statement from RFK Jr., and he's spot on. That's how most people feel about President Trump, unless you're a Democrat or you're mainstream media, right? Now, to really bring this point home in this story and how powerful this is, here is an example of one policy decision that they are going to execute to make our children healthier. Take a listen to this.
The second thing is that you mentioned, sir, in your remarks that we are on track to sign multiples of SNAP waivers to get junk food and sugary drinks out of our food stamp system. And I am so proud. I am so proud to announce that on Monday, I was in Nebraska with Governor Pillen, where we signed the first one. An hour ago, I signed the second one for Governor Braun in Indiana. He may not even know that. I've got it right here, sir. I also signed the third one, Governor Kim Reynolds of Iowa, about an hour ago. With a half a dozen more coming down the line. And sir, that has never happened before under Republican or Democrat administrations.
See, I'm sure you would agree that this is a common sense policy decision. My question is, what took the federal government so long to do something like this? Because we know they can't tell Coca-Cola or any of these companies who are producing foods or drinks that aren't healthy to our bodies. You can't tell them don't make it. But what they can do is stop subsidizing that stuff. If someone wants to drink it, let them. But they should go use their own money to buy it. Don't just hand it to our children like it's candy. That's crazy. Now, the crazy thing is what Mayor Brandon Johnson had to say today of Chicago. We already know this is a guy with an 8% approval rating, and he had some nice words about President Trump. Now, if you guys can't tell, I'm being facetious here. He does not. In fact, he calls him a monster. Take a listen.
As far as the president's animus towards women, people of color, working people, we have always known who he has been. And this is not a surprise. He's a monster. Period. We have the most diverse administration in the history of Chicago. And he is threatened by that. You can tell when someone is fearful is because they act out. We have a president that is screaming and having tantrums right now because we have an administration that reflects the city of Chicago, but he would much rather have administrations that reflect the country club.
Well, that's why I played you guys the clip, because that shows you exactly the world that Democrats live in. They believe that's who President Trump is. It's a complete joke. But again, that's why I show you guys both sides, because I know you have people in your life, friends, family, colleagues, that think just like that. And they refuse to acknowledge anything that President Trump is doing that is positive, especially for our children. Now, his reaction comes as the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division launched an investigation into the Chicago mayor after he stated publicly that he prioritizes hiring black people. In other words, he's discriminating against people based on their skin color.
Some detractors that will push back on me and say, the only thing that the mayor talks about is the hiring of black people. No, what I'm saying is when you hire our people, we always look out for everybody else. We are the most generous people on the planet. I don't know too many cultures that have play cousins. That's how generous we are. We just make somebody a family member, right?
Being a good person and also receiving a good deed has nothing to do with your skin color. That's character right there. I am a prime example that 99.9% of the stuff that Democrats say is bullshit. And I had to curse on this one. Both parents are drug addicts, sexually abused as a child, single parent and adopted, went to the military, didn't have a father figure. No one bailed me out when I had negative money in my bank account. Okay, I had to make my own decisions. I had to get my mindset right. I had to build a stronger relationship with God. And by doing things like that, I was able to be a good person to other people, and good people were able to be good to me. That's how it works. Has nothing to do with your skin color. Can someone please tell the mayor that? All right, now let's go to our next story. This is breaking news. SCOTUS has delivered another major win to President Trump. Let's hear the details on that now. Take a listen.
Big U.S. Supreme Court rulings, one involving taxpayer funds for a religious charter school, the other independent agency board members fired by President Trump. What happens to them? Fox News chief legal correspondent, anchor of Fox News Sunday, Shannon Bream, is here with details. Good evening, Shannon.
Good evening, Brett. So let's start with those firings. The order in this case is a big win for the president, at least temporarily, as the Supreme Court says his decision to fire members of two independent federal boards can proceed, at least while the case continues to play out on the merits. The order says this in part because the Constitution vests the executive power in the president, he may remove without cause executive officers who exercise that power on his behalf, subject to narrow exceptions.
Now, in case you didn't know this about this particular story, it took the Supreme Court 2 months to rule on this. That is ridiculous. Secondly, this affirms once again that President Trump is the CEO, and if he wants to fire some of his executive officers, he has the authority to do so. It's asinine that this is even a debate. But furthermore, this continues to show you that Democrats are more focused on lawfare than working with the president to help everyday Americans. And that right there, I believe, is the most troubling thing. Now it's time to get your reaction in the comment section below. Let's start off with Noem, revoking the certification status of Harvard when it comes to accepting foreign nationals as students. Do you agree with this move? Secondly, which I think is probably the most important story of today, the Maha report from RFK Jr. that clearly laid out the 4 key factors to chronic disease in our children. Do you support what they're doing in that regard? Listen, just let me know what you think about this entire video in the comment section below. Now, last night, there was some interesting news coming out of Congress, and that is about Congresswoman McIver. This is the individual who assaulted an ICE officer. Well, one GOP Congresswoman is seeking to expel her from Congress. If you missed out on the details on that video, more stories from last night, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.